Every little thing you did do to me. You sweet to me for body. She your loving fee follow me. Wow, 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 wow. Yeah, your bullet make her go crazy. I'ma get say you sure for me. Say make her withdraw money. Oh, Roma, no go down. Make a carry your luggage. I define you for this. For this, I no trust, I fit to contain. Your body now baggage. So you know, see, I'm falling for love. Overdose me, your love they overdose me. Now you, I want me love you, I think of follow. Overloading, I'll be overloading. Your bank account, money plenty, tell me the amount.
No one told me love would taste like this. Got my money in my pocket like this. Bitcoin in my wallet like this. Wisdom in my knowledge like this. Follow God, I know they follow man. But you, I might have to consider. Trips to LA taking photographs. You sign by me, then it's an autograph.
Live to die another day for you, baby. Quit my Casanova ways for you, baby. The only time that you say that you hate me is when I take the last slice of pastry. Now I'm on the run. Loving you till kingdom come, but you drive me crazy. Send someone, still my billboard baby.
My number one, see they be. You they, I mean like by me. I just wanna be there when you need me. Baby, now your matter, I dey sing all day, yeah. Overdosing, body overdose. I'ma say you carry overload, and you know you bad like commando, yeah. Roma, no go down. Make a carry your luggage. I define you for this. For this, I no trust, I fit to contain.
Hey, my people, how far? This is the Courageous Pod. It's been a hot minute. Today I have a guest with me, a very special guest. He goes by the name of Ola Talks Abitogun. He's a fellow YouTuber like me. Very much accomplished. He has a whole lot more followers than I do. So I really appreciate him, taking the time today to come on the Courageous Pod. Ola, you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Perfect,
Awesome.
perfect. So just for those I've never heard of Ola, this is like I said, this is a very much accomplished individual. Ola Talks Abitogun is a result-based counselor, consultant, and coach in 7 key areas: career, dating, relationship, marriage, parenting, business, and real estate. And you've been YouTubing for how many years now?
Oh man, I think our first channel was 2009. We lost that channel. Yeah, it was 2009, and it was a channel about my wife and I would just jump on and just talk about celebrities in Nigeria at that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 2009. We ran that for probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years on and off.
Okay.
Until one day, I think I mistakenly deleted or something. It was you know how you have like channels on your one branded account and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this channel has been dead for a while, like 2 years we haven't run it.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like deleted it by mistake while I was trying to figure out how to set up some new channels because we weren't going to work it anyway. I was just like, whatever, you know. But yeah, I've been dabbling on and off on YouTube since 2009.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah.
You also happen to have published 2 books on real estate investing called Smart Real Estate Wholesaling and Real Estate Money Secrets, and an additional book that you co-authored with your wife, Lola Abitogun, called Get My Marriage Back. And and I guess that's kind of like a big part of the reason why I also brought you on today, because as you all know, there's a man that goes by the name of Kevin Samuels. If you're living under a rock, go look him up. He is one of the biggest or fastest growing YouTubers in the last, at least since the pandemic. Is that fair to say, Ola?
Yes, it's
one of the fastest growing.
Well, yeah, I definitely since the beginning of last year, 2021.
Yes.
It blew all the hot cylinders open.
Yeah.
Last year, early 2021.
Yeah, and he recently died. Really, really tragic. But for those that don't know, just kind of like his background was, he had started out as like a fashion slash style consultant, and he used to do these YouTube videos, and then he kind of got into the relationship advice, the relationship consultant
Right.
thing. And
Right.
during the pandemic, there was something unique that happened. All of us were home, right? We're all home.
Right.
We couldn't go out, and a lot of people realized how lonely they were. So there were a lot more people watching YouTube videos.
Correct.
And of course, a lot of people that were lonely were also looking for like relationship advice. And Kevin Samuels was one of those guys that had been giving relationship advice. He'd been giving a relationship advice and just life advice and just, general advice to young men on the internet for a while. He used to be very, very rough on them. And
Yes.
then he started also giving women advice on, and his wasn't necessarily how to maintain a relationship. His was more so how to get into a relationship, or at least kind of like how to get started and optimize your chances of finding a meaningful relationship. And
Right.
he always talked about that. He wasn't really in the game of like how to make. It was really more so how to even get in the game to begin with. And I think what happened was that he saw that there was something going on within the black community in the United States where relationships weren't working, and you had different people with all these different standards. Like he would bring women on and interview them, and he would notice that they had all these standards. Sometimes he considered them to be kind of unrealistic standards, given who he was talking to.
Yep.
And he had this. It was a very unique approach. It was people think he was being mean just to be mean. It was there was a system to the madness. He called it shock therapy. It was this
Right.
thing where he would be very, very direct with you, and depending on the energy the women gave him, if he sensed any kind of slight disrespect, he
Yep.
would return that energy to them, and he would talk to them in a way that you don't really hear people talk to women these days.
He will roast them. basically.
Essentially, he wasn't politically correct. He was very, very direct, and it was like brutal honesty. And he always said it was almost to kind of like give them a jolt, like to shock them into reality. Like, hey, here's what's going on, but it was really important because I think it underlines how he always talked about how as humans we need each other. We can't do this whole independent, we want to be by ourselves things. We're not necessarily built like that, which I really actually really do agree with. I don't think
Right.
as creatures, we're not really built to be by ourselves like that. I think we need some level of companionship, something. And
Right.
during the pandemic was when I think people realized just how lonely they were. So there was this one video that went viral where he was very, very brash to this lady, and he was like, "Look, you're average at best." Remember the average at best video? He blew up. People were like,
Yep.
"What? Why would he talk to her like that?" And it was
That's
always
the video that brought me on his radar.
Yep, and it was always the same thing. People will always be like, "Well, yeah, I guess he's kind of saying the truth, but it's how he's saying it. It's his delivery. It's his tone." And people would like try to tone police, like maybe he can deliver that message in a better way. And it's like he would come back and say, "Well, the other people that are delivering that message, what are the results that they're getting?" And I'm explaining this because people hear Kevin Samuels and they kind of like they cringe automatically. They have all these assumptions about him, and I'm not saying he's a perfect man, but there was like I said, there was a method to his madness. It wasn't just to be mean for mean's sake. And unfortunately, fortunately for him, his channel grew after the pandemic. He had over 1 million subscribers. I started following him when he was like at 500,000, and I saw this guy rise through the pandemic. And there was a time when his live shows, right? Like he'd be getting 20,000 viewers a night. That's not normal. That is unprecedented. And this was for someone that was, you would think women hated, but women kept calling. It was almost like it was like a different part of like this relationship advice game. We weren't used to hearing it, is what I would say. So I guess my first question to you is, within this space that you've been, have you also interviewed people? Like, what has been your experience in like trying to give people relationship advice? Now, first of all, you're married, right?
I am married, 15 years.
15 years, wow.
Yes.
How many kids?
3. I'm raising I'm raising three boys and one princess. But
Interesting. Oh
one
wow.
is a full blown grown person. So I would
Oh
say right now there are three in my house.
wow. Okay. So I guess what's your experience? Because watching Kevin Samuels, I he interviewed so many people, and I always wondered how he did it, and like what was what do you think about the current state of, particularly in the Nigerian diaspora? What do you think about the current state of relationships and like with people's expectations?
I think it's a disaster,
Even within the Nigerian space.
everywhere, even with the older folks.
Wow.
I think it's a disaster. And I think if I have to blame anything for it, I will have to blame the media, which today now is social media, right?
Yes.
It's just the tool that the powers that be have always used to control human beings,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And sometimes the vested interest of those stakeholders is not exactly what the vested interest of the individuals are, right?
Yep.
So you and I, we're just trying to build a family, just
Mhm.
trying to raise our children and be happy and come back home.
All right.
That's what we're trying to do as an average person. But the powers that be, they don't care about none of that, right?
Break that
Just trying
down
to get
for
the
us. Break
product
that
out
down
there.
for us. I kind of I see where you're going, but I need you to break that because I need to really I need you to kind of like pull back the layers
Right.
a little bit. So when you say the powers that be, you're talking about like I guess economic interests, right? Like people
Yes.
that want to keep the
Systems.
economy going, the systems.
Systems, yeah,
Okay.
not particularly persons, but systems. The way the system, because we created the system too.
Yes.
At the end of the day, value for value, right?
Mhm.
We get value. We consume all the content that they're putting out there for us.
Yes.
So we created it as human beings. This is just where we found ourselves, and sadly, it's affecting relationships in bad ways. The internet has so much information on it. Back in the days, we didn't have that much information. We would have to go to older folks, aka relationships, right?
Yeah.
And bow and say, pops, what do you think about this? Moms, what do you ask advice? This is the person I'm looking to marry.
Mhm.
The vetting game started with your parents, started with, a little bit of research
Yeah.
about where this person is from. But these days, because we have in our palms, we have all the information, right?
Mhm.
And we have back in the days to have books was a special deal. Like,
Yeah.
we used to spend God knows how much on half.com trying to get books, right? These
Mhm.
days, you could download as many books as you want.
It's all on the palm of your hands.
Yes.
You have the world in the palm of your hands these days.
Yes. So I think we have overload of information right now. Anything that's overly supplied will decline in value, right?
Yes.
So I think that's where we are. And the Kevin Samuels of this world, the gurus of this world, the Steve Harveys of this world, they are a product of that same exact thing,
Okay.
right? And anyone can turn on a mic, a microphone, a camera, and start talking to people. So we went from they're using media to control us to anyone, regardless of what kind of skill set or where they're coming from,
Yeah.
they can talk to us and our children.
Mhm.
So we're in chaos, right?
Okay.
The principle that guides life is still the same. Oversupply creates less value, right?
Yeah.
More demand increases value, right?
Mhm.
So no matter what it is, once you have too much of it, you take it for granted. Application gets watered down.
Yeah.
When it comes to Kevin Samuel, I don't know him personally. I can speak to that man as a man. I don't know who he is. I can speak to his talking points,
Okay.
right? And we can dissect it however way you like them fit, right?
Mhm.
And we can get through some of them, right?
Yeah.
But I think some of the stuff I heard, I wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
I listened long enough to know where his rhetorics are,
Yeah.
right? Some of the stuff are absolute facts.
Yeah.
They are quote unquote universal truth. They are common sense,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But that wasn't our problems. I think most people, in fact, one of the reasons why a lot of ladies were triggered is because it was hitting a nerve. That's
was.
the bottom line.
It was.
Right?
Most definitely.
So, he was saying what, a fifth grader can probably think themselves. and it was hitting those nerves. Now, where I would question is like, did we get to application?
Okay. Like did we get to apply those principles?
Yes. The application that a lot of, if you go into the comment area, the applications that a lot of people were inferring or getting from him is, oh, we should check this woman. We should hold them accountable.
And I definitely want to get into that. I want to get into that because there are two sides to this. You're right. So, and to just to give people a kind of like a framework of what his ideology was about, it was really about, I guess the best way I'll put it is matching, like people matching, like different people matching, like a woman, for instance, right? Meeting her match. And what it meant
to go for your range.
Yes.
Like, and overshoot, right?
And it was basically what that meant in today's world. Now, as we know, with the rise of women's rights and the participation of women in the workforce, women have leveled up compared to 50 years ago.
Exactly.
So the dynamics have changed. The relationship dynamics have changed from like our parents' generation. From our parents' generation.
Yeah.
So more women have leveled up. And his own thing was that media has kind of like taught women that, they should strive for more and they should never settle. And that is a fact. There's this narrative in the media where women are always encouraged. And there's a reason for that too. People, they want women to be encouraged to kind of level up. And he's saying that what ends up happening is that by doing that, there are a lot of men that get overlooked as a result of that.
Right.
And that men are constantly confronted with the realities of their situation all the time. They're reminded by it by society all the time. They're reminded by women all the time. If a guy goes up to a woman that's out of his league, he is reminded pretty quickly. Reality sets in pretty quickly. He doesn't really need much for that.
Right.
In the case of women, however, that's not necessarily always the case. And he always tried to, he had this term called a high value man. And I think this is kind of where I felt like he had a point, but he used to kind of trap women with this high value man term. He would ask a woman, so what you want to hire? Every woman that came on, the assumption is that she wants a high value man.
Right.
And the fact that high value man, from what he considers to be high value man, it's like someone that makes like a certain amount. I mean, there's like a bunch of criteria that he has to describe a high value man. And it's supposed to be like the top, 5-10% of the population of men, right?
Right.
And he will basically say, look, that's the 5-10% of the population of men. Now, as a woman, right, when it comes to sexual marketplace, is what he would call it, we don't necessarily view women the same way we view men within the sexual marketplace. We judge women more on looks versus the way we judge men on like their pockets and how much they can generate, the kind of wealth they can generate, status. And that was what he always made clear, that you're judging this man because you feel like you're in this certain tier because you're making this amount of money, but that doesn't necessarily make you entitled.
It doesn't make you desirable.
Yes, it doesn't make you desirable and doesn't make you entitled to men in that upper stratosphere. Whether you believe it or not, whether you believe the high value men or not, but that was kind of how he broke it down. And as a result, he would bring women onto his show and he would entrap them into this high value man discussion, and he would knock them down. He would knock them down a few notches, and he would pretty much give them a brutal reality about where they stand.
Right.
And it got to a point where he would do it, and it felt like sometimes, yes, I know, you're being truthful, but sometimes it felt like he wasn't necessarily doing it necessarily to help them. Sometimes it felt like he was doing it more for like the entertainment of his show, and to give his audience fodder, which is what you talked about, his audience. A lot of these men that kind of it's almost like they got off watching women get demoralized. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, of course. So I mean, there's Kevin Samuel was multifaceted, right? He was a guy who knew exactly what he was doing. He was a genius marketer.
He was.
So I'll give him 2 credit. I give him the credit that he was a genius marketer. I'll give him the second credit.
He was a good salesman too.
Starter.
Yeah. He was a
Yeah.
good salesman too. He knew how to sell women on like he would sell a woman like even it could be a really great looking woman, oh, and maybe she's like in her 30s. But man, he would. It was almost like he was such a good salesman that he used to use all these sales tactics.
You said it all. You said he will build them up and then destroy them.
Knock them
right?
down.
That's I'm glad that we're having the conversation because a lot of people don't see that. There's a lot of men that can't see past their own bad experience. They can't see the better lessons that they can actually get from him, which is how he moved as attention getter and a business person, right?
Yeah.
Including image. Like just look at him from an image standpoint, starting from little things as little as the pendulum on that table, right?
Yep.
All those things matter. Those are things that I would like men to kind of like take and see if they can apply it in real life, in relationships, in business, in every aspect of life, literally. If you can't get attention, everything else you're doing is failing. It's just going to fail because you're going to get frustrated yourself because we all have that need for people to see what we're up to, even if it's good, right? It's attention at the end of the day. So yes, he definitely knew. So those two credits, definitely a genius attention getter, polarized views, extreme polarized views. Like he's not going to stay in the middle. He's not going to say some women. He's going to say all modern women.
Yes.
All those things are intentional.
Yeah, they are.
To get the attention. People like us regularly when we stumble into like, what do you mean? That's not. I know women that are like no. All women. Go talk to those other women. All women. All that is intentionally. Then the second. So again, I talked about the market. The other thing is, again, conversation starter. These are real conversations that must be had, though.
Yeah.
These are actual delusions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
So the thing is that if I were to push back on him, if I didn't know him well, as this guy is just a marketer, shock jock of all types, right?
Yes.
I would go and say, what about the man? But I know enough that let me just not bother him. He's in his lane. Let him do what he was doing. But in reality, both men and women of these dating scenes today,
they need to be held accountable.
All of them. And the real problem with relationships comes down to one thing: unrealistic expectations. We expect humans to become perfect because we read too many books, right? We start drawing boundaries in romantic relationships. Like if we want to get down deep into that, right?
Yeah.
All of this is unrealistic. Human beings are not perfect and they will never be perfect. That's the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Now, should they be held accountable? It depends on what we're talking about. What are we talking about? Was she supposed to clean the baby's poop and she didn't clean it? Or was she snoring yesterday and you thought, oh, women are not supposed to snore? Or maybe she farted in the bedroom and you're like, yo, that's too much. I can't handle that. What exactly? There's too many layers to it. What exactly are we talking about? So a lot of conversation around Kevin Samuels is generalized BS nonsense.
Yeah.
That people are not going to talk about in real relationships. They're not. And everybody is capping like, oh, we're trying to build community. No. The reason why you end up in this conversation is because somebody hurt your feelings. Let's get down to the bottom of it.
There's a lot of hurt people out there. But that was also something that Kevin Samuels talked about, though. He always talked about how people needed some level of therapy in order to actually be able to invest, like really give it your best, give your relationship your best, which I always thought was a really, really solid point. But you know, I want to talk about his followers. And because Kevin Samuel has built an army of, I call them Kevin Samuelites. I see them. And when I knew that this guy's impact had reached a different level was when I started seeing like Nigerians in Nigeria.
Just so
using his talk.
Less than a minute on my end. Did you see it?
I see it. And I think I may need to log back in. I tried to upgrade, but I didn't want to disrupt the interview.
The flow. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, I see it. Hopefully it doesn't, because I've done this before and it didn't kick me out. But worst case, I might just need to.
I remember doing that too before. They never kicked me out. So
yeah,
let's keep rocking. If you have to, just bring me back on.
I'll bring you back on. So but he has this army of people that just, they love him. They love everything he has to say. They love how he kind of sticks it to women. And I don't know if you've come across them, because I've come across a lot of them. I come across a lot of them
I
on
have personal
Clubhouse.
friends actually.
I come across a lot of them on Clubhouse, and it's like, yes, I get it. He's made good points, but you do realize that it doesn't necessarily apply to you too. You know, there are things that you need to do as far as a man, where you need to level up, in order to become that person. And sometimes it's like, I never want to interject whenever I hear these people talking, especially like these people that, because at least in their minds they feel like women need to, almost like they're the prize. They automatically just assume that they're the prize because they happen to fall into the high. Yeah. So basically, I just want to get your thoughts on, like, I call them Kevin Samuelites. This army of Kevin Samuel, disciples, so to speak.
Kevin Samuel isms.
Yes, that go around and they feel like maybe because they've ticked off some of the criteria of what it means to be a high value man.
A high value man, yeah.
And they go around telling, preaching this stuff. And in my mind, I'm always thinking, Kevin Samuel does what he does. Trust me, he's a great content creator. It's bigger than just him being an advisor. Like, it's engaging, it's entertaining. That's why the average at best video went viral. It was jarring. But there are all these people out there that think they're the next Kevin Samuel, and they go around spinning all this stuff to women.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on that? On
In
this
fact,
trend?
there's a guy right now who I think Dennis Perley, who is claiming to be his attorney. He was a friend, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
He's running around town.
I
And
know the guy.
he's doing such a terrible job. And I think most people that would try to follow his footsteps would do similar terrible job.
It can't be. It's only one Kevin Samuels.
Yeah, I've seen Kevin Samuels on other panels before. I've seen him how he talks to the ladies. He doesn't talk like the show.
He switches up. He changes.
He has the social skills. A lot of people thought he backed down from not talking at what's her name? Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj. He's
Right?
smart. He was trying to go mainstream.
Yes.
He was trying to go mainstream. Even there was another girl. I forgot her name. Some girl that.
Who, Melanie King?
No, it wasn't Melanie King. This girl that had a baby for this baller, and I forgot her name.
Brittany Renner.
Brittany Renner. Even Brittany Renner, he was very controlled. He held back, and he was very careful. He picked carefully when he turned it up.
Exactly.
Master communicator.
Exactly.
Masterful.
So look at like Brittany Renner, right? You're about to talk to Brittany Renner. Obviously, you're not going to use the same energy that you used to talk to someone who called into your show. A person who called into your show is probably lower on self-esteem, right?
Yep.
A Brittany Renner probably has guard of like, I would chop you up, I would chew you out if you're not, right? And he probably knew that. And he probably knew that, listen, if I'm going to get some information out of this person, there's a way to move, right?
Yep.
All of that is called social skills, emotional intelligence.
Yep.
And Kevin, I'm not sure if it's deliberate. Actually, no, it's not deliberate. Actually, majority of his first videos from years back, if you go watch them, were him teaching men some of these social skills. He started by teaching them image, right? I did a video and I added some context. Part of your image is how you talk in public. The way you talk to people in public, that's going to become your image. You see a lot of people on Clubhouse, before you know it, they're what do you call it? The account is clipped or they get blocked or things like that, right?
Yeah.
Your image is your image. The way you talk, the way you dress, all these things is going to affect you. And if you don't know how to control it, if you think the way he's talking, like a monotone, at those women that call into the show is how to talk to women, you're going to have a rude awakening. And that's what I think the big problem with some of the, not some, majority of these followers are going to be. When it comes to application, there's Kevin Samuel as a textbook. There is Kevin Samuel application. I think he completely missed out, unfortunately, on being in a place where he could now teach Kevin Samuel's
how to apply. I mean, there was so much more he could have done. I was hoping that his content would kind of evolve and he would kind of get away from that whole telling women stuff, because after a while it kind of got repetitive. Like I could almost predict what he was going to say.
If you're a mentally healthy person, right?
Yeah.
At one point, you're like,
Yeah, like this it's a bit much. So I was hoping
Right.
his content would kind of evolve, and I felt like he was working on that. He had at least get into the mainstream. He was in some videos. Some rappers had at least shouting him out. And you know he had always talked about wanting to become like have his TV show,
yeah, yeah.
and then maybe he could
He
moderate
was
that a
doing
little
many
bit.
training, some kind of program
Yes,
where he
maybe you
charged
could
people.
moderate that a little bit, and then maybe give men a little bit of a dose of his medicine too. Like maybe
Yes,
highlight
yes.
that, because honestly, I feel like one thing that he was definitely right about is that there is a big problem with relationships today. Like you
Yes.
cannot deny that divorce rates are at an all-time high. People
Mm-hmm.
are unhappy. There are people that are just opting out. You have the
Yep.
incels that are not even bothering. They've decided they've given up. You have the femcels, I like to call them, the feminists that all men are scum. Like there's so much chaos right now.
The feminazis.
Yeah, there's so much chaos right now that I don't think people understand how much we need each other and how much we need to. And I happen to feel like the family is the bedrock of society. Some people don't agree with
Me too,
that.
me too.
But that is my
cornerstone,
belief.
yeah.
And in order for us to have a good, thriving economy, a very, very well-rounded country, I feel like we need to fix our relationships. I think that's where all our problems, all these the cultural wars that we're having, it's all stemming from all these people that are. There's so many people that are from broken homes. So many people that are not fully adjusted. I like to say, I feel like society it all comes down to mommy and daddy. And when you
That's it.
have more dysfunctional marriages, you're gonna have more dysfunctional children being raised out of
Yep.
those marriages. And that's gonna enter society and it's gonna affect
Yep.
society, and you're gonna find more dysfunction in society. So I feel like until we kind of start fixing that, which is why I respected Kevin, because he recognized that more so within the black community, within his community. And it was almost like he felt like this was his calling, like this was like a big deal to him. Again, I'm not in favor of everything that he always did and everything that he always said, but you cannot deny his impact.
I mean,
you cannot deny
if there was no problems, he wouldn't exist.
He wouldn't.
His brand wouldn't exist.
It wouldn't.
And for me, when I first, because I had a few conversations with a few friends, I actually have quote unquote a friend of a friend who saved their marriage from listening to Kevin Samuels.
Kevin Samuels, wow.
Because she got her shit together after, some people just can't see it, right?
Yep.
And but for everyone like that, there's 10,000 people that resent him and
Yes.
resent black men more, because a lot of those followers you were talking about are now running around town,
Yep.
around the streets of social media, yarning their mouth anyhow at women.
Yes. It's crazy. It's
For every
crazy.
single, by the way, he's been claiming 8 couples that he got together in the last 2 years, 8 couples. But for every single one person, right, there's thousands upon thousands of extremely toxic rhetorics out there.
It's wild, and that's why his legacy, the way I see his legacy, it's going to be such a mixed bag. It's not pure.
It is. But as men, let's get down to it now. As
Okay.
men, we have to be okay with that.
Okay.
When we're trying to solve problems, we create new problems. That's every profession in the world understands that. Try our best to mitigate that.
Yeah.
But when if we don't have these hard conversations,
Yeah.
we're not going to fix a problem that the numbers are clearly saying
Yeah.
there's a problem, right?
There is.
So it's okay that Kevin went through here and instigated the conversation. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
What I don't want is men still perpetuating the same
Duplicating those efforts. There cannot be another Kevin Samuels. We had him. We needed him. We needed that impact, but it can't. Everyone can't go around playing the Kevin
Doing
Samuels
that.
role.
You can't do that.
It's just not gonna work. Especially guys that it's like, do you understand that these women are leveling up to? These women are they're getting
and provide
bags.
physically anymore.
Exactly.
They're getting better back than you.
You know what I'm saying? So and I think that's a frustration with a lot of these men. They realize that, and now these days, in order to get married, there's a higher threshold that you need to meet in
Where
order
we're
to be
coming from,
financially
right?
stable.
Where we're coming from, right?
Yeah.
As men, you're a Yoruba man, I'm a Yoruba man.
Yes.
As men, right? We don't compete with women.
No,
If women
no.
have our problems, we'll solve it. We don't complain publicly about it.
Yep.
That's not what we do, right? Oh, we're just being quiet. Okay, we're not quiet. Let's go into a barbershop and talk. But you don't complain to women about your problems.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
You do that, you will lose 100% of the time. You're not Kevin Samuels. Stop it.
No, yeah. No, you don't. And that's our cross to bear. That is, you know, when we talk about the patriarchy, when we talk about the fact that men kind of run things through time, that is our cross to bear. Like women have their cross to bear too. But one of those things that we have to bear is we just have to, some things that we just have to suck up and be like, you know what, this isn't. It's not my place.
I don't see when you see problems in front of you, how you interpret it makes all the difference, right? If you interpret that as we have to suck up, that's where a lot of these men's frustrations are coming up. Then you start to hear things like, "What about us?" No. Listen, it's not sucking up. You are the leader. Do you want to be a leader? Okay, if you don't want to be a leader, you can play the house husband role. We can go back to that if you want to, right?
Yeah.
But in this society, you're going to be held accountable like a man. And what that means is that if a woman is acting out of place, it's not your place to act out of place. That's not your cue to act out of place. It's your time, your chance to look at a problem as an opportunity and say, how can we solve it?
Yeah.
How can we figure what is this? Is a human being. She cares about something. What is it that she cares about? Have you paid enough attention to that? Or you're saying, no, she's just wicked. If you think she's just being wicked, it's only natural that you will act accordingly, meaning you feel attacked.
Yeah.
You defend yourself. You now offend the ladies, right? And you're creating more problems for the society. As opposed to say, okay, there's a place of weakness here, there's strength. On both sides, there's strength, there's weakness. Are we leveraging those things? If we're not doing those things, the conversation is just going to be going in circles and we'll be destroying lives, literally. And we'll be destroying legacy. I don't think his legacy is destroyed. I think it was short-spanned. I think 2 years at most, right? I think it's going to be remembered mostly for the good things he said, because over time, human beings tend to forget toxic stuff into the past, right? They will pick out his messages, kind of like nobody talks about Martin Luther King is a cheater anymore. Yeah. Nobody talks about that.
Although there's some women talking about it these days. There was someone that came out recently, like accusing him. But
what was that? B. Simone, right? B. Simone.
Yeah, B. Simone.
Yeah, I saw a headline about that. But we don't worry as men. We don't worry about why would I pay attention to what B. Simone is saying?
I know.
So we're in a place where men are becoming weaker. When someone like B. Simone says something, we overreact to it because we're looking for pieces of content. We go and overreact to it.
I agree. We it's almost like we shine more light on that toxic side of things when we really don't need to. And you're right. I do think part of being a man is you have to know where to dispense your energy. It's not everything that you go around saying, "Hey, look at us, woe is me." It doesn't even. Nothing drives a woman's thing faster than a guy that's like whining about certain things.
Exactly. You're giving them unnecessary energy.
Yeah.
And then you're taking the energy away from the good girls, which they still exist.
They do. But then how common are they, Ola? That's the thing.
They're not on social media, I guarantee you. They're not loud on social media, but they are. They exist.
Within the Nigerian, let's talk about within our Nigerian space, for instance. Do you think that there are a lot, especially, let's even talk about Nigeria, for instance. Just in Nigeria, you do know that there's a lot going on in Nigeria that to say you can go home to find a wife these days, it's kind of a stretch.
Well, if you have to go home to find a wife, your problem is bigger than that. Your problem is much more bigger than that. You're probably just going to get hurt on your way to the village and back from the village. You're just going to bring a wife that will become a nurse and still dump your ass.
Dump your ass.
I'm telling you, like, it's like your shadow. It's like you're trying to run away from your shadow, and every time you look, there you are again, right? You can't, like, I see people do this. There's some people that have done it successfully, but because of the intentional, we're not wayward.
Yeah.
They just happen to meet somebody from Nigeria and they brought them over and they're happy.
Yeah.
But when people say, oh, because I can't find a wife or a husband, I'm going to go back home, you're going to bring problem.
But you know why they're doing that, right? It's because they feel like the women here, they've become so progressive and they've become so independent that maybe they feel like it's harder to work with them. Maybe they feel like they're a lot more combative. They're a lot more, and you know, I feel like those are some of the women became more independent, women's rights, everything. I think
I see a wedding band on your hand. So I want
Yes.
to feel free a little bit more. A
Yeah.
wedding band on your
Yeah.
hand, right?
Yeah.
You're married.
Yeah, I'm married.
So I'm going to feel free a little bit more. I want to roast a few people, okay?
Okay.
Right? If you have to go to Nigeria to go find a wife because the women around you, let's talk about what's common in all of that. The women around you.
Okay.
You surround yourself with certain type of women, right? There's something about you that you have not worked on.
Okay.
This is 100% accurate all the time. If you're pushing back against it, it's because you haven't fall flat on your face yet. I will wait. I'm patient. Okay. There's something you need to work on. There's a reason why you're attracting the kind of people that the same common denominator, keep attracting. The way we human beings work is that we're social beings. We're in patches. You cannot look at Kevin Samuel's statistics and apply it to yourself. It's nonsense. You're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
That statistics, you don't know what subset of people they pulled it from. He kept saying black people. By the way, if you don't get the news flash yet, a Nigerian person, you're not exactly a black person.
Yeah, it's a completely different culture.
Completely different. Now, with that being said, if you still look around you and you find certain type of 304s around you, that is you.
You're attracting the wrong. You are what you attract at the end of the day.
You are exactly what you attract. Some people, when they hear that, they push back. They're like, oh, that sounds like all sound kumbaya, simple nonsense. Right? That's your problem. I'm going to wait. I'm patient because I'm married. There are a bunch of people that are married. There's weddings happening all the time. Well, then they say, oh, but those weddings, they become divorced too. You're right. You're right. But there's a percentage that become divorced. There's a percentage that stay together. As a matter of fact, I tell you right now, the percentage that stay together, cut that into half. Those are the only ones that are happy. You're right about all the data you want to put. But let's talk about you as a spiritual being.
Yeah.
What kind of energy do you attract around you? So you want to go to Thailand and find a wife. You want to go to Nigeria and find a wife. You want to go to Colombia and find a wife. You forgot that those people are people. They're also getting westernized.
Yeah.
You don't understand what you're putting yourself into. You don't even know the kind of beings. Like, for example, someone like me, I left Nigeria in 1998. You think I understand the people in Nigeria? No, I don't.
Yeah.
I'll be fooling myself. Every time I go to Nigeria, there's just something, no matter how much we're exposed on the internet, it's just different on ground.
Yeah. Do you think maybe the older generation, maybe, do you think they could have done, as far as like teaching us how to like go out and meet people, do you think they failed us perhaps?
Yeah, I wouldn't use that language because it's fear driven. I think that generation was that generation. They taught what they knew. They moved how they moved. If there's any good about you right now, that good is a product of that generation.
Yeah, but people always talk about how, like that older generation, like for instance with our women, they will tell them no boyfriend, no dating, right? Nigerian parent, no dating, nothing. And then the daughter will get into university, no dating, no, and then the minute they graduate university, they'll be asking, where's your husband?
To marry.
Which is kind of like, so I mean, I feel like those are some of the things that maybe we could clean up going forward.
Guess what? We have young men today advocating to go back to that. They're saying, when I say, hey, I got teenagers, I'm giving them sex education already. They push back. They say, that's terrible. Don't expose them unnecessarily. Right? We're confused. We're confused. We want to be progressive, but we want to go back to tradition at the same time. Depending on what we're talking about, depending on what your personal experiences are. That's what determines where your bias will fall, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, yes, our parents, if I was to label it a terrible job, I said they do a terrible job, but I don't think they knew any better.
They didn't know any better. You just didn't know. There's no way they could have been prepared for the world that we're in today. There's no way they could have seen it.
There's no way. Like, you can't say somebody did a terrible job terrible job with reference to what? You have to say with reference to they knew better and they didn't do better, right?
You're right.
It's like our children coming back and saying we should have taught them what the metaverse is.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in a few years we'll know, but right?
How about those people that, because you always hear this from a lot of these feminists, right, where they talk about that generation and how their marriages were and how there's always reference to how our parents and that older generation, their marriages were so toxic. The women had to stand all sorts of cheating, and basically it's almost like we didn't necessarily have really good examples. What do you think about that perspective? Like how pervasive do you think that was in terms of like these, like the quote unquote toxic marriages
Feminazis. Oh, yeah, I know the rhetoric you're talking about. It's a bunch.
of men that just sleep around, come back to their wife. The wife will be miserable. Like, how do you think that might also be a factor?
It's a bunch of generalized nonsense. It doesn't mean it didn't exist. It didn't mean that. But you have to remember, we are literally the second, at most, the third generation that's monogamy.
Okay. Yeah. Well, true. That's true. That is true. That is true.
Most
Because
of us
we started.
grandfather
My
was a
grandfather. My
polygamist.
grandfather had 4 wives. You're right. Yeah. My grandfather had 4 wives. I never thought of it that way. You're right. We're not necessarily a monogamous society until recently. So
You
there
see-
was
you
some.
see the unrealistic expectations now. Right?
I never thought of it that way.
I'm supposed to fall out of the sky and be able to practice monogamy just because Oyinbo said so, right?
You're right.
So not only that women have that unrealistic expectation of men, but even men are judging themselves unnecessarily. We subscribe into a system that we don't know the rules, right?
Mhm.
The truth is that it's individual by individual basis. Back then, there were couples that were happy. Back then, there were couples that were not happy as well. If you tell me a generalized nonsense, I'll tell you, tell me more. Precisely what story are you talking about? Who got slapped in the face by their husband? Who got cheated on by their husband? What happened? If you don't know that full story, you're speaking
Then
to
you're
stuff you
making a
don't
lot of
understand.
assumptions, and there are a lot of
Humans
generalizations.
cheat, okay? Humans cheat because they cheat, okay? Because sometimes we want certainty and we want variety. These are two of the 6 basic human emotional needs. Sometimes we want variety, sometimes we want the security of certainty, right?
Yeah.
At different times, the same person, right? So if you're aware of that already, then you can mitigate that. You can say, hey, I know I would like variety. That's what you see people say, I want to spice up my marriage, right?
Yeah.
That's why you see people having conversation and saying, oh yeah, but babe, we got to pay the bills first. You know what? I guarantee you, next 2 months, we're going to Miami, right? You're able to spice it up or create structure.
Yeah.
That's why you need the feminine and the masculine energy. The masculine energy will bring the safety, security, and the feminine energy will bring the varieties and the chaotic creativity that makes it beautiful, right? And then it creates sexual polarity. These are new knowledge we need to be engaging. Once we are aware, awareness is half the battle won, right?
Yeah.
And then we can now put measures in place to keep ourselves happy. But I think we're doing ourselves a disservice by referencing people that operated with a different rule,
Different mindset.
different society, different
Different.
mindset. How do you know she wasn't happy? What gave her a sense of happiness? You don't know that.
And that's another thing that I always think too. I'm like, even if those people, their husbands went around and cheated, who says that they still didn't live fulfilled lives? There's this assumption that they were
For the
all
most part.
miserable. But then when you look at the data today, you find that there are actually far more people depressed today, where we have a more egalitarian society. So who's to say that they still weren't happy? I'm not saying that, that's the best way to go about doing things, but the way we look back and judge previous generations sometimes, it's so unfair, and it's so it doesn't really take into account like the full breadth of like the times that they lived in. You're right about that. You're right about that.
Good, bad, better. All that is irrelevant. It's a different generation, it's different context.
Yeah.
In engineering, we call it a different dimension. How do you bring this? How do you transfer rules all over the place?
Yeah.
If you go from one religion to another, it's different ball game. You go from one culture to another, it's a different ball game. From one tribe to another, it's a different ball game. From one generation to another, it's a different ball game. Of course, we transfer some of the same elements.
Yeah.
Like, for example, we all want love and connection, right? So,
All right. So this is again, we're kind of running short of time. I know I was going to only have you for 30 minutes. I have you for over an hour now, so I appreciate it. So I'm going to try to wrap it up very soon. There is one question that I definitely want to put out there for you, and it's: is love enough?
it depends on your definition of love, right?
Yeah.
How you define love with experience is different from how you define love when you don't have experience, right?
Okay.
Experience is a very, very important knowledge source. There are only 2 ways to get it. You have the experience, it fall flat on your face. The second one is have mentors, right?
And learn from
That
them.
you can run some things by and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this, right? when it's not clear, right? As opposed to making rash decisions
Yeah.
or overreacting when you see something that you're not familiar with. Love is patient, love is kind, love is all of those things that the scripture said in Corinthians. If you're if you define love that way, yes, absolutely is enough. Absolutely, right? One of the things with love is that we have to subscribe to the same meanings of love.
Yeah, that's true.
If
That's
your
true.
subscription to love as my partner is just affection, like the Google Dictionary,
Mhm.
clearly it may not be enough for you. I may think I'm giving everything I can give, and whatever I'm giving is not enough for you. So context matters. Who is defining what love is, right? There's a book called Five Love Languages, right?
Yeah.
That book did a great job.
My wife talks about those things all the time.
Yeah. It's not an absolute, but it gives you an idea of what to work with, right?
Yeah.
In terms of how people interpret love. So he broke it down into five. There are other books that broke it down to three or different structure. It doesn't matter. The point is that you have some kind of definition of love beyond affection that works for you and your spouse. If you have that and you both subscribe to that
Yeah.
and you focus on giving, because love is giving, it's not give and take. That's one of the problems with people, right?
Yeah.
If you think in love as give and take, naturally, because you're a selfish being like the rest of us, you will focus on the taking. You would think you're giving, but you focus on the taking. You now say, I've been giving, I don't receive anything back.
Where's
That's because
my
you're focused on the
yeah,
taking.
it's almost like a selfless thing. It's a selfless
It's a
act.
selfless thing, right?
Yeah.
So some people will say,
I was gonna say
Sorry.
I like to think love is
Mm.
a choice though, to an extent. Like we choose to love someone. And
As
it's and
you.
it's something that it's almost like every day you're choosing to love this person that you're choosing to spend, like for me.
That's only valid if the person if we're talking about romance, we're talking about romance, right?
Yes.
That's only valid if the other person subscribes to the same
To the
ideology,
same idea.
because you're a human being. If you are choosing to love and you start to feel abused, you feel like the other person is not reciprocating, you'll get caught up in your feelings and that will go out the window, right?
Mhm.
So it's very important because I get that pushback too. Like when I say love is given, like what if they're not giving back? Well, I didn't say you shouldn't give to yourself. You should be giving. You can't give what you don't have. So giving to yourself is not from self. Take care of yourself. You give to yourself, especially as a man. As a man, make sure you're taking care of yourself so you can pour into other people.
Yeah.
And she tends to want to reciprocate if she's a normal human being. But if you're busy trying to take, if you start to resent because you're feeling like you're not getting, because you're not pouring enough to yourself, right?
Yeah.
If you start to resent, you will end up in the echo chamber of Kevin Samuels and
Mhm.
all the other gang.
Mhm.
And then they will tell you what you want to hear. It's usually nothing good. I'm just being honest with you, especially if you're reading the comment areas.
Yeah.
In terms of application, you're just going to have people that will feed all this toxic energy, and then you will single-handedly destroy whatever you have going on. Does that mean she shouldn't be held accountable? No, she should be held accountable, but you should be coming from a place of faith, strength, right?
Mhm.
A place of you're in control, right? As a
Yeah.
man, you can't be in a place of weakness because that's not attractive to anyone, or a place of lack of confidence, or a place of low self-esteem. They can smell it, they can sniff it, even if she's a good person. She
Yeah.
will eat you up alive.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you know her. Every woman across board is like this. It's not because she's a Christian or not. It's because we're human beings. So I always tell people in terms of love, love yourself abundantly and then give, share that love with someone. Then manage your resources. Don't be stupid. Don't be buying $200 plate
Yeah.
on a date when you know you can't afford it, right? This is where all the resentments come from. So my answer is that love is enough, and maybe not enough. Depends on
It really
your
depends.
definition of
There's
love.
really no, yeah. Yeah, I guess because it is a very vague question. But I brought it up because I know there was one clubhouse room that I heard you guys talking about it, and it was along those lines of
Right.
of whether
It's
love was
tricky.
enough and or it's not enough. But it's never so simple. At least I
Let me
like.
let me add this context if you don't mind.
Okay.
You see, when people say love is not enough, they're usually coming from a place of bad experience.
Hmm.
It's very important to talk about that, right? If you come to me and say, "Is love is enough?" You're not just falling out of the sky saying that. You're asking that question because you've tried to love and you felt like it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So that's why I said we have to break it down to What do you mean by love? Or because you're in love with a person, you think that should be enough? That's not love. You're just in love. You're caught up in a feeling, and feelings are temporary by
Yeah, they
nature,
don't last forever.
you know? So the context matters.
Interesting. Wow. Do you advise couples?
Yeah.
You do consult? Interesting.
Yeah. Consult on marriage, relationships, dating,
Wow.
and parenting. And I consult on those 7 areas where I've experienced success.
With parenting, man. Well, I definitely I just had my first child about a year ago.
Congratulations, man.
About a year ago, and yeah, it feels like she's going so fast. But I think of like the future and the kind of parent I'll be, and sometimes even I'm kind of scared myself, like, whether I would be enough, because I know how pivotal your parents are in your life. It is so pivotal, and of course I love my parents. They weren't perfect. I like to think that I turned out relatively okay. But then, I also know of other parents, and I see other kids and like some of my mates and things that they went through. And it's so easy to mess up a child. It's so easy. Yeah, and it's scary, really. So, I mean, that's a discussion probably for another day. I would definitely like to get into that some other day. Today was really more about relationships. But I would definitely love to hear your perspective on parenting and kind of what it takes, because I feel like I have a lot to learn, especially being a new parent myself.
I mean, just relax, man. Just relax. Everything will be fine.
Sometimes I feel like the pressure's on, man. I feel like the pressure's on, especially in today's world where you have this device,
The device,
and
right?
how
I know.
they can get so many things from it, and it's kind of
know.
scary, man. But
I know.
well, God did. I think that was really really airy. I don't know if there were any other things that you wanted to share, just in terms of just advice for our listeners in terms of relationships and kind of like how to, because I have a lot of listeners that are single, and I think that's one of the toughest things right now is people getting into meaningful relationships and building something really really meaningful. Like,
Right.
are there any general tips that you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
share
yeah.
with us?
Yeah, the truth is that for any one of those, you can hear me, right? Yeah.
Yes.
The truth is that for any one of those areas, the same principles apply in life. It's the dimensions that changes generation to generation.
Yeah.
Media has always been here for as long as we have history. People wanted to, the elders, the leaders of a community want to communicate
Yeah.
with the people, with the followers, right? Then if you watch Nigerian traditional movie, they take the agogo, and then the media has always been there, right? Because there's a need for it. It's part of survival. You need the protection of a leader to protect you guys in an environment, and that's the beauty about the family structure. You have a man who can protect you.
Yep.
The only thing that changes in this dimension is that it's no longer financial and physically, because she can protect herself in that sense.
Yes.
But there's something that she still needs you. Stop all the cap, including ladies, right? She still needs you to protect her emotionally, right? She needs to feel that sense of a masculine energy around her. And when she doesn't feel it, we all have masculine and feminine in us, right?
Yes, we do.
A masculine comes to the surface because she needs to protect herself, right?
Yes.
And then you receive that as disrespect. That's what it feels like on the surface, right? Or you don't feel enough, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But once you're able to understand that this is not about financial, again, new dimension, new order,
Yeah.
right? It's not about, it's still protection, but not financial.
It's almost like you have to kind of change your mindset. It's like
mindset. It's always been mindset. It's just that it was really, you have to protect them physically.
Yes,
once
back
upon
then,
a time, a few hundred years back.
Yes,
right?
but now we're a civilized society, and that need is not as prevalent.
Exactly.
But you still, but we still need to protect in other ways.
You still need to protect because we've been socialized to be that way. She come home sometimes from that boss chick activity, and she needs to be able to cry on your shoulder. And if you're not a secured guy in yourself, that's going to make you start to feel like, there are little things that you've been socialized to that you need to tweak now. And it's your responsibility to tweak it because you are a leader. You don't get to cry the other way around and say, me too, me too. No, there's no me too.
Yeah.
No, this is not the point where you need to subscribe to equality. You're not equal. You're the leader, right?
Yeah.
So if you understand that it's the same principles, but the dimensions are different, and you need to ask questions about what dimension are we in right now. She doesn't need me here, but she needs me over there. You're still leading. You're still leading, and she still needs you to be a leader. And it's not something she needs to admit to by her mouth. There are women that will say, no, 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 I just want a partner. It's not your cue to start arguing with that, right? The actions speak louder than the words, right? So there are 7 principles that are used that's applicable to all of this. And I'm speaking to men because I believe that women are a product of how we move.
Yeah.
To a large extent. Yeah, there are evil women. I get it. I get it. But how did you attract that evil woman? Let's talk about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there, in any one of the areas that I cover, there are 7 things that I use. Resourcefulness.
Okay.
Resourcefulness. You have to be able to come up with resources and stop waiting for someone to create resources for you. Not especially a woman, right? If she brings money to the table, trust me, there are other areas missing where you could fill the gap. Again, it's about resourcefulness, not about having the resources.
Yeah.
It's applicable in every aspect, right? Then 2 is influence, defense, and offense, right?
Yeah.
Influence, defense, and offense. I would like to add audience, but in a relationship, the audience is her, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's her. But offense, defense, playing offense and defense, you need a good balance of all of that. If you're always playing defense, meaning I just need prenup, you're going to lose. That's not how to win a game.
Yeah.
You need to
And
be playing offense too.
You're not going to gain her trust. You're going to lose.
Yeah, if that's what dominates your conversation, she's going to get scared shitless and run away from you far. If the domination of your conversation is all this fear-driven stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's not just romantic relationship. People run from you. Nobody feels safe around you, right?
Yep.
The third thing is systems and processes, right? You need to have system and process in place because you're a human being. Don't put yourself on a pedestal. System and process, a good example of that would be the ocean. The ocean is feminine energy, right? It moves the way it moves. You try to swim against it, you will drown yourself.
Yeah.
Instead, you need to learn how to leverage it in your favor, right?
Yeah.
And then you can now create the results you're looking for. There's a skill set behind that. Then number 4 is patterns and trends. Every human being have patterns and trends. If you say 2 statements, I can read you. I know the next thing you're about to say. You need to develop social and emotional intelligence skills, right? 4 is growth by leverage. It kind of allude back to what I said earlier about use things around you, the forces around you to create growth. Don't try to be a superhuman. When she comes home and she's crying about that boss and you can see the answer, it's not your cue to give the answer. Just listen a little bit longer. Just make her feel safe that she can talk without somebody spewing all kind of solution at her. The solution sometimes is the process. Women especially need to go through listening. The idea of they feel safe that you can listen to them without feeling the need to solve every problem. And a lot of men complain that you expect us to be superhuman. Actually, I'm telling you to be the opposite. I'm telling you that all this work you put on yourself is not necessary. You just need to relax and listen sometimes. It's easier. It's harder because of your emotions. You're getting caught up in your emotions, but it gets easier with time, you know? Number 6, elimination of competition. How you eliminate competition is confidence. Confidence, right? Everyone is attracted to confidence. People don't know what you're capable of at the end of the day, but if you show them some kind of confidence, they will bet on it all day long. They do it in the stock market.
They do.
Right? Last but not least is sustainability. Again, don't try to be God.
Whatever you do, make sure it's something that you can pretty much sustain, right?
Yes.
Like don't be something and then show up. That was another one of the key things that I learned before I got into my marriage, because that was one of the issues. That was one of the mistakes I used to make in my previous relationships. I would come out and I would want to impress so much, and I would do all this and that, and women expect that to an extent that it's
okay for them to expect that.
Yeah. But sometimes sometimes as men, we go overboard, so that when we now settle into the relationship, it's almost like you become the opposite person, and then you now start looking like a phony.
Yep.
And they look at you like, is this the same person that, and the minute that happens, they lose trust. And once they lose trust, it's almost like downhill from there.
It's like destroying the building.
It's like downhill from there. So that you're right about that. That consistency thing is really, really key. Is not going too overboard. At least try to maintain a good sense of yourself so that you don't seem like a completely different person.
Yes.
And I think one more thing that, and I think you kind of alluded to it, is that with relationships, right? I think the onus ultimately is on the men. There's this guy.
Sorry, that's the reality.
There's this guy, and this was something that I learned again before I got into my marriage. Something that I learned from Patrice O'Neill, and he would say this thing all the time, and I never understood at first. But he would be like, "If the marriage doesn't work or if the relationship fails, it's your fault as a man." And
they quote O'Neill all the time. They don't quote that part.
Yeah,
the red pill community, manosphere, they don't quote that part.
He'll say it's your fault as a man, and he would almost kind of trace it back to like something that went wrong, something that you missed along the way, that then caused this cascading effect to the point that either she ended up cheating on you or she ended up leaving you or something. But he would trace it back, and Patrice was. Like this man, it wasn't like he was the best looking man, but this guy got girls. Like of course, he knew how to control. Like it was, and those are one of like the biggest lessons I learned. Like it's almost like if you're going to enter a relationship, and the onus kind of has to be on you. So you have to kind of make sure you set those right expectations.
It's a mindset.
It is.
You know, it gives you power because you can always say. When you say I can hold myself accountable, you see, it's powerful. It's powerful. And when you say no, there's got to be something else fault. You lost your power instantly.
Yep. Those are one of the biggest lessons I learned, man. The onus, whether I like it, I know we always talk about this equality thing, but I'm telling you, when it comes to relationship,
equality belongs in the workworkplace.
Yeah,
human rights.
When it comes to relationship,
when it comes to romantic relationship, you throw that out the window. We're not equal.
No, we're not.
And it's not beneficial to be equal because we're trying to create sexual polarity. We're trying to create polarity. Why do we want to be equal? We're trying to create compatibility. It's not compatible when you have like sides of the polarization, right? That's not how life works.
And besides, it's not like you want to date yourself anyways, because that's essentially what it would be. You'd be dating someone that was just like you in every single way. You're equally.
Anytime a man's rhetoric is full of holding women accountable, it's so easy for me. Like that's the problem.
Yeah,
I can just pick it up. Like that's the problem. You're competing with a woman.
Yeah,
you will always lose.
Yeah.
You already lost.
Yeah. Yep. Man, I wish. I feel like I don't hear you say this a lot on Clubhouse because I've heard you in discussions, but I don't. I don't really hear you get into these.
With the fellas,
I guess.
I have to be gentle with them because again, Kevin Samuel started a very important conversation. A lot of people are holding resentment in. If I don't let them pour it out, we can't fix what we don't know, you know?
Yeah.
But majority of the work that I do with them is in my back channel.
Oh, okay.
Many of them will come in my back channel and ask further questions because like you and I said earlier, after you're toxic, bashing women, after a while you're tired, like I still feel toxic in my chest.
I know.
Right? It's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
Speaking of sustainability, you cannot sustain that.
No, it's not.
You know?
It's definitely not sustainable. You're right. You're definitely right about that. But I've held you for far longer than you agreed to, so I really do appreciate it. Before we go though, please don't forget to please hit that subscribe button right there on the Smiling Sufferer network page. Hit the bell. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. Before we go, Ola, can you just give us your socials, where people can reach you, and how people can get in touch with you?
I mean, you can find me at olatalks.com.
Okay, and that's Olatalks, Ola TUX.
TUX, yes. Olatalks.com. Some people say Talks is my middle name, Tokumbo.
Okay.
Some people will say, but if you search my name too, I come up all over the place.
Yes. And that's Ola Abitogun.
Yeah, Ola Talks Abitogun. Even if you search my last name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's please subscribe and send me all the links, man. Let's see if we can chop it up and do some more stuff.
I would love to. I would love to. Like I said, this is a platform where I just get to just engage with the world and learn about things and hopefully bring my audience along with it. I feel like we learned a lot today. I mean, there were some things that you broke down that I would definitely love to even get like a deeper dive into, because I feel like these are one of the most important, like your role right now is one of the most important roles in society right now, because it all comes back to the yin and the yang, the man and the woman, the relationship. And right now, it's the relationship between the man and the woman in society.
And we're raising
broken.
kids.
And we're raising kids. And
Yep.
it's so important. So I really do appreciate it, man. So I'm gonna let you off for now. I appreciate it. Any parting words?
Nah, man, let's keep the conversation alive. Thanks, Kevin Samuel, for starting a conversation that was much needed.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
But some of us can have this conversation without feeling the need to drag people.
Yeah.
You know. But some drag. If there's any dragging necessary, I think I want to drag men. You know, I'll say this: women are generally not attracted to men that drag other men. I know some people don't expect that, right? And men are generally not attracted to women that drag other women. Because it shows a sign that you are not loyal, and it's something that we read into very subconsciously. But some of us have taken the charge and say, you know what? No, I'm responsible for how men move in this society, and we're gonna figure this out. And we're taking a risk because, you know. But who else is going to take the risk than a married man, right?
Yeah,
After all, I'm not looking to attract any more ladies on the streets, right?
I feel you, man. We're out the game, man. We're out the game. The game.
But we're the lucky ones, like they said. We don't know anything that's going on out here, but then they want to complain to us. But
these streets, man, they're rough, man. I hear these people on Clubhouse. I'm just like, oh my God, I am so happy. I'm happy I am no longer in the dating. It's rough, and it's gotten worse compared to like back when I was dating. It's especially with the political correctness. There's so many things going on right now that dating is just not as
we see people
easy.
Like Will Smith falling for it. It's tricky. It's very tricky.
Man.
Yeah. No. But I think I have some answers. But I'm okay with not having the answer. But we must keep the conversation alive.
Keep the conversation going.
Get to it. Yeah.
And I definitely I especially within the Nigerian or the African diaspora, I feel very, very strongly about that. I understand I can't fix the world, but I at least want to start with our community.
Yeah.
Like, if I can at least start that and make sure we start healing and healing these wounds of toxicity, I think it'll be a good place to start. But I appreciate you, Ola, man. It's been a great conversation. I can go on for hours, man. This has been very, very
my pleasure. Corey, is it Corey there?
It's Corey.
Corey Ola? Okay, so Corey. All right, no problem, man.
But it's the courageous part. Yeah, Corey. Well, they call me Corey. I'm used to it. But it's been real, Ola, man. I appreciate it, man. I gotta run now. All right.
We'll talk soon.
All right, thanks, boss.
Girl, the way you broke my heart, it shattered like a rock through a window. Thought we had it so good, never really saw this coming. Oh, why you got to be so cold? I built my